Hello, welcome to Raymond Castile's Basement of Horror. Today we're going to look at a very strange toy from Mattel. Mattel made a lot of weird monster toys. Mattel's mostly known for Barbie, but they've actually made a lot of really unusual and original monster toys. Going back into the 60s, they had the Thing Maker sets, very unique, innovative, influential toy. In the early 70s, they had weird things like the Squishies, a little witch and a little monster called Oddbod, and you could squish them. And we might do an episode on those one of these days. And then later in the 70s, they had the toy we're going to see, and also like Sucker Man, Gregory. They had, going into the 80s, the Clash of the Titans toys with the big Kraken, another thing we might see on the show one day. And certainly we'll do an episode on the Boglins one of these days. Really weird, rubbery hand puppets, again, made by Mattel. And don't forget Slime Compound. They had the green slime in the trash can, and the slime worms, and slime eyes, slime tadpoles, all kinds of slime. Then the Masters of the Universe set had all kinds of weird monsters. So they didn't really need a license. I know the Clash of the Titans toys were licensed, but most of this stuff was not licensed. They didn't need it. They had really original thinking on their design team, and they just made up cool, fanciful creatures. And they always had some gimmick. They were always made of some kind of weird material, or there's something about their texture or shape-shifting ability or something weird like that. There was always a hook with this toy, with Mattel monster toys. Like the slime had the, it's goo, it's that weird texture. The Thing Makers had the weird smell. They were goop that turned into rubber toys. And Sucker Man, you could throw him and he'd stick to the surface. And Gregory was rubbery and had blood pumping through his chest. And I always said the Boglins were rubbery, and the Squishies were filled with wax. Just all these weird Mattel monster toys. It wasn't that they had missiles that shot out or like battery operated light up stuff. No, it was always like something about the texture that was weird, like a rubbery, slimy, gooey, squishy, odd texture. That seemed to be where the Mattel designers focused on with their monster toys. They wanted they wanted the monster to seem like it was made of some weird material. That wasn't just a plastic toy or just a rubber toy, but there was something almost like from another world, some weird material that a kid couldn't quite wrap their mind around. Like, what is this stuff? What's it made of? How does this work? So today we're going to look at this monster toy. This is Krusher, spelled with a K. Krusher is a Mattel monster toy, and Krusher was made in 1979. 1979. And that is the same year that Mattel made Sucker Man. The same year Mattel made Gregory. And we saw Sucker Man and Gregory on the second episode of Basement of Horror. So look up Season 1, Episode 2, and you will see boxed examples of Gregory, the vampire bat, and Sucker Man. Also a loose Gregory is in that episode. So you'll see more about those toys in Season 1, Episode 2, Basement of Horror. Go to the old episodes and find it. So those two came out the same year as this guy, Krusher. That was a really interesting year for Mattel. Lots of odd stuff. But I'm always impressed with how weird and original Mattel's monster toys are. And I bet I'm forgetting so many things. I'm probably just scratching the surface of all the weird stuff Mattel's made. So this guy is my childhood Krusher. This is the same one I had in childhood. And I still have a picture of the day I got him. And I'll put that up. And since I can't, as I'm talking to you, I can't see the photo, so I don't know if it's birthday or Christmas. I want to say Christmas, but I don't know. But I have a photo of the day I got Krusher. It's either my birthday or Christmas. And my brother Gamel is in the photo, and we're playing with our new Hoth Ice Station Kenner Star Wars playset, and you can see me with my Krusher, and in the background lying down is the box for Krusher, and there's some paper or something on top of the box, but that is I looked at it closely, that is Krusher's box in the background, and we'll see that in a second. So I'm very happy with my my big Krusher. I'm proudly holding Krusher, and he's still with me, the very same one in that photo. Here he is. And when I was a kid, I liked to make him box like that. He was a boxer. Why would a monster box? I don't know, just something about his sculpt made me want to make him box. So that was an odd personality for a monster, like boxing. And he breathes. Not as well as he used to. Let's see if we can get that on mic. Try from the rear here, because it's actually, air's coming out the back. So he breathes. But that's not the most important thing he does. We'll get to that. So Krusher is a really cool monster toy. He's got beautiful sculpting. You can see here he's got just lovely sculpting. Lots of detail. He's really cute. And the only part that's not rubbery is the plastic belt, and that belt has an air valve on it. And there's some goo because I put epoxy glue as a kid on his belt because it was leaking. That's why he doesn't work quite as well as he should. The belt's leaking, so to stop the leak, I put epoxy glue on it. So that's why it's quite a mess there. It's not. You'll see how it should look in a moment. You'll see. You'll see one that doesn't have the glue on it. But that's my childhood repair job because my Krusher was leaking, and he has a letter K on his belt. K for Krusher. Well, is he going to fall over, I wonder? Maybe I can do this. Nah, that's probably not a good idea. Hey, Krusher. Yeah, he wants to lie down. So, you've earned a good rest, old buddy. Just go there. Okay. So, why is he called Krusher? Because you can crush him. That's his action feature. You can crush that toy. He has a rubbery skin. I don't know what it's made of. It can't be latex or else it wouldn't survive. So it's some kind of PVC, like a soft PVC. But, essentially it's rubber. In layman's terms, it's rubber. So he has a rubber skin, and he's filled with foam. So I'm sure that the foam inner core is shaped just like the rubber outer surface, probably with all the details and everything. And then it's covered with a rubber skin. So he's solid foam all through. And when you crush him up, the air goes out the valve on the back of his belt, which is also what makes the breathing sound. And then if you close the valve, it freezes it in that position, that scrunched up position, because it creates a vacuum. Then if you release the valve, it lets the air in and he expands back to his original shape. So let's see if we can have a demonstration of this. Okay, so we're going to, this valve is open, and we're going to crush up Krusher. We're crushing him up as much as we can. Now he's not going to hold his air as well as he did when he was new, because he's old and there's leaks and all that, but you'll get the idea. Okay. So you can hear that air is coming in, but when he was new, he would freeze in that position, and then you release the valve and he comes back. Let's try it again. There you go. Now, when he was new, of course, it was much more dramatic and much more, you could scrunch him absolutely just flat and just scrunch him up and then release it and he'd poof up suddenly. But like I said, he's old and it doesn't work quite as well as he used to. He doesn't hold the vacuum like he used to, because he's leaking all around his belt. Well, he's still cool, and it's amazing that he works at all. But from what I understand, just reading online, most of these, if they're intact, do still work. So this toy holds up really well. Okay, so let's look at a box. So here is a boxed Krusher. There is the box for Krusher. Has a nice color illustration on the front. Then the side, one side has color illustrations. One side, it's the same decal that's on the front. It's bent over the edge onto one side, but only one side. So it shows you how Krusher operates. Then the same illustrations, as I said, there's only color on one side, but the same illustrations are on the other side. They're just not full color. They're just black and green. Because this is a decal that's applied to the front and bends over onto one side, but not the other. Here's his top of the box. And here's the back. So let's open him up. Take this one out. Now I wish I could say that this was a perfect, untouched Krusher. Unfortunately, it does appear that this Krusher has been used somewhat. Now, he has some wear on his face, which is normal because that's the part that comes in contact with the box. So that's normal to see that. Also on his feet, you usually see some wear here because that also comes in contact with the box. There's an insert in there that comes up between his legs. And on the one I have, there's no other insert. I don't remember if the one I had in childhood had some extra insert or not. This box only has the bottom insert. I don't know if there's anything on the top, if there ever was anything on the top holding him in place. But this box just has the bottom insert that has it comes up and it's got like a little notch where his tail goes. But the face and the feet come in contact with the inside of the box. So almost always you see those. You will always see paint wear on the face, the chin, the teeth, and the feet because that's coming in contact with the box, rubbing against the cardboard. But in this case, this guy also has paint wear on his waist, his abdomen area, his belly, above his crotch. And we'll just get out of the way. It's because some people online joke about his anatomy. That's not very nice. He is a reptile after all. So yeah, you don't know what's actually going on there. You know, reptiles are built a little differently than mammals. So please don't insult Krusher. But I've read some comments online, people kind of snickering about his anatomy. That's not very nice. He's a good Krusher. Okay, so, but anyway, he's got wear here. So if he's not used, how in the world did he get wear? I suspect he probably wasn't played with. He doesn't seem like a toy that was played with. Just the general quality of the paint. He wasn't crushed a bunch of times and handled a lot by kids. I think, though, that he probably bounced around the collector market for 20 years, from 1979 to the, I don't know, late 90s or whatever. He probably bounced around the collector circuit, and dealers probably took him out of the box to show people. And where would they hold him if they took him out of the box? Right there. They're going to hold him hold him around the waist, around this plastic part, and that's why he got paint wear there, because that's probably they take him out to show people, see if they want to buy him, show how he works maybe, but always holding him right around the waist. So that's probably how he got the wear. But I don't think this was a kid's toy. It could have been, but I don't think it was. I mean, obviously it's made as a kid's toy. I mean, this particular example, I don't think this was played with by a kid, because it's otherwise too nice a condition. It's kind of stiff, like it hasn't been smushed a lot of times. It's just, it stands on its own. Unlike mine, this one stands on its own. And just everything about it is just too nice, except for this wear and paint wear. So I think this probably was not played with. But it could have been, because a lot of times with these big toys, back in the day, the kids or the parents would keep the box And when the kids got tired of playing with the toy went back in the box, and the box went in the attic. So that's why you see things like Great Garloo and other big toys, or Hugo, Man of a Thousand Faces, stuff like that very often still has the box, but it's been played with. So here he is. I'm not gonna crush this one, but here is a nicer condition Krusher, probably never really used, except maybe to demonstrate to a potential buyer at a toy show. There again, there's his box, and there's Krusher, so he'll go back in the box. This is not the world's greatest box as far as condition. I'll straighten him up a little bit later. That's not the world's greatest box. I'm sure there are better examples out there, but I bought that a long time ago, and it didn't cost me much. Like here, so back to my childhood one, you can just see all the grime and everything on him. So this is obviously played with, whereas you didn't see any of that on the other one. Oh, look, he's standing up, kind of. Is he going to stay that way? So, good old Krusher. I've looked at prices on Krusher. It looks like loose ones are like $40-ish, and boxed ones are $80 to $100. And most boxes, this box, for all its flaws, it's actually nicer than any box I saw looking on eBay recently at like completed auctions to see just what was the market for this toy. Most of the boxes I saw were in worse shape than mine. So even though my box isn't that great by mint and box standards, it's better than any that's been on eBay in the last 90 days. So he's not that hard to find. I wouldn't say he's common, but if you want one, you can definitely get one. And if you want him in a box, it's around 100 or so. And if you want them loose, it's probably going to cost less than 50. Certainly don't pay more than 50. And it's a really cool toy to add to your collection. If he stood up better, he'd probably be part of the permanent arrangement, at least for this season, with these other toys up here. But he'll fall over. Otherwise, he'd probably be up there with them. He's really cute. I like him. Now, why did Mattel make this in the first place? Why did they make this crazy toy? A toy that crushes. What kind of a toy is that? You smush him? Oh boy! And when I was a kid, I would smush him up and I'd bury him in dirt, like loose dirt. Then I'd leave the valve exposed, because I think he does this in the commercial. The commercial's on YouTube. I might link to it in the description. I could be mistaken, but I think in the commercial he does this. Otherwise, I don't know where I got the idea, but I would bury him in dirt, and I'd release the valve, and then he'd come up out of the dirt, like he was bursting out from the earth, and the dirt would come off. So I played with him in the dirt and the sandbox and all kinds of stuff. He had a lot of use. He got well played with. And back in '79, I think the idea behind this toy was that it was designed to compete with, but be compatible with Kenner's Stretch Armstrong, Stretch Monster. I don't know if Stretch X-Ray was out yet, but certainly Stretch Armstrong, Stretch Monster was out. And I think the idea was those are popular, so this was kind of Mattel's answer to that kind of toy. But by the time this came out, those stretch toys were sort of on the decline, and this toy was not very successful. And a lot of these weird Mattel toys are kind of cult items. They weren't, these weird Mattel monster toys, they weren't big hits in their day. They've become kind of cult collectibles. Like the Boglins were never, in the United States at least, were never a big hit. I don't think Slime was a big hit. That was big. But I don't think Grigori or Sucker Man were big hits. I don't think the Squishies were big hits. The Thing Maker, that was a big hit. The Clash of the Titans toys, those didn't do well. So Mattel made all these great monsters, but often they didn't sell well. But thank goodness they kept making them anyway, kept trying. I think someone at Mattel just liked monsters because they kept making cool monster toys, even though very often they did not catch the world on fire. And neither did Krusher, unfortunately. I remember as a kid seeing an end cap at Sears. And Sears is going out of business all around the country, but Sears was a big deal when I was a kid. And I don't know if that's where I got my Krusher. I mean, I got it as a gift. I don't know if that's where my parents got it. I think they got it from a Christmas catalog, I want to say. But I'm not sure. But I remember going to Sears and seeing an end cap of just like a million Krusher boxes just stacked high on clearance. And I don't know what the price was, but I remember it was just a fraction of whatever the price in the Christmas catalog was. I remember even as a kid being kind of shocked at how cheap they were, and how much they'd been reduced, and how they just had them stacked up. And this was at Sears. I still have that memory. And I had a similar memory with the Kenner Alien. Just seeing all these Kenner Aliens on clearance and clearance. Just realizing how unpopular the things I liked were. It kind of drove it home. The things that I really liked were just, I was the only one who liked them. No, because they were being cleared out. They couldn't give them away. So that's the way it was with Krusher. They could not give this poor little guy away. Nobody wanted a reptile monster you smushed up and then expanded again. I wanted him, though. One person wanted him. I did. So I'm just surmising that he was probably designed to compete with Stretch Armstrong or be played with along with your Stretch Armstrong toys. That's probably what their thinking was, because it's very Stretch Monster-like. It's kind of, and instead of stretching, it's the opposite. It smushes, it contracts, instead of expanding. After it contracts, then it expands, but it doesn't expand beyond its original shape. So it's kind of the opposite mode of thinking from what Kenner was doing. Good old Stretch Monster. I had a Stretch Monster, and I know I still have the head somewhere. But as a collector, as an adult, as a kid I had one, and I still have the head somewhere. As an adult collector, I've never had a Stretch toy, ever. As a kid, I had Stretch Monster, Stretch Armstrong. As an adult, I've never bought one. I'd like to have a Stretch Monster, but they're really expensive, and yeah, you can spend $1,000 on one, and then a few months later it springs a leak and gets ruined. So I've always been a little gun shy about ponying up the money to get a Stretch Monster. And if I were to get one, I'd want one perfect condition, so it would cost a lot of money. You can get one that's kind of wonky for several $100s, but if you want a good one, and a US one, not a European one, it's going to cost a lot of money. A good one with a nice styrofoam sarcophagus and a nice box with all the flaps intact, going to cost a lot of money. So I'd like to have a Stretch Monster, maybe one day, I don't know. Probably not, but maybe. And I don't remember, even though I had Stretch Monster and I had this Krusher, I don't remember them having fights. So maybe that was the idea that Mattel had, but I didn't do that. I don't remember ever having Stretch Monster and Krusher fighting or playing together. I never did that. Or Stretch Armstrong. I never had them fight. I think probably my Stretch toys were already toast by the time he came along in '79. I think they'd already sprung leaks, both of them. So that's probably why. Maybe if I had a good intact Stretch Monster or Stretch Armstrong, maybe I would have played together. But I guess they had already bit the dust by the time Krusher came along. Well, I can't think of anything else to tell you about Krusher. It's a cute toy, it's unique, it's original, and it's indicative of the kind of odd originality that Mattel put into so many of their monster toys from the 60s through the 80s. They just had a lot of weird monster toys that were not like what any other company was making. And they always emphasized something tactile instead of action features like shooting and lights and sound and things firing and motion. It was always something tactile. The texture or changing the shape or something like that, which just, and because it was kind of with a couple of exceptions like the Clash of the Titans, no, but I think all the other things I'm talking about, that gave them a kind of thematic consistency. That's what a Mattel monster toy was. It was this weird, rubbery, gooey, slimy, squishy thing that was made of some weird substance that you'd never felt before. And even as a child, I picked up on that Mattel monsters were not Universal, they were not Godzilla, they were not Star Wars or comic books, they were not the Alien, they were their own thing. They were weird, odd, unique toys from a universe all their own. So that's the look at Krusher. Hope you enjoyed it. And we're coming close to the end of the second season of Basement of Horror. I don't know exactly how many more episodes I'm going to do, but it won't be very many more. You know, it could be 2 or 3. And I'm still sort of planning how to end the season. I've got an idea, but we'll see if it pans out. For us, I like to end the season on a special kind of episode. So just making you aware that we're getting near the end of this season. You won't have to wait till Halloween though. I'll do like 2 seasons a year. So the next season will pick up in the spring. And then in between we'll have some specials. But just emotionally preparing you for the end of season 2 of Basement of Horror. It's coming up in just a few episodes. You still have a few episodes left. You know, we'll get through the end of January. But the end is near. So emotionally, psychologically prepare yourself. And then we'll be gone for a couple months, and then we'll come back in the spring with the 3rd season. But we're not gone yet. We'll still have a few more episodes left in season 2. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Until next time, he who dies with the most toys is crushed. Bye.